Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. You are hanging with the Hayters here on actually FM 104.5 and 106.1. I'm just plus you're on the
welcome to our
internet.
FM listeners.
Okay, this is the first.
But we're still on Ireland Start.
Oh, we are. Okay, don't forget. Many of you may be listening on the internet right now. And by the way, if you again, I said, if you're missing this show, you can definitely catch us on archives later. But if you're missing the show, how could I possibly even say that?
Well, anytime you miss the show,
exactly.
You can check the archives.
By the way, we have a special guest today. It's a friend of ours that we have, I would say, financial interest in, as well as being a friend. And this is Sonny Horn, and as well as many other things. He's president of Leaders Financial Group. He's for us, our specialty with Sonny that we really called upon was he's a specialist in retirement planning. And I will introduce him more thoroughly later, but let me just tell you this, why I dragged his buns on the show today. And it's, this is our first FM show and all, and I wanted to have a special, something that would really help people. And I thought, who's helped us the most? It's Sonny Horn. I mean, Kay and I, when we were both with the Conroe School District, we were, making what teacher and a secretary make. And we were saving some money, and anyway, eventually we saw, retirement is not going to work very well with this annuity we've got now. And son of a gun, there was the school district, Conroe School District, advertised something out of Sam Houston University, a program where a gentleman was going to introduce you to the idea of saving retirement. And, it wasn't one of these things, Kay, if you'll recall, where you go in, okay, tell me some stuff, okay, I'll sign up. This was a dadgum course we went to.
Yeah, I forget.
It's like they were really interested in what they
yeah.
We had homework and everything. And Sonny Horn, sitting across from me here, was responsible for that. And ladies and gentlemen, that was in the early 90s, and I've been retired since 2003, and a large part of that is because of this gentleman sitting across from me. And if he could say stuff that helped Kay and I, he can definitely give some advice, and that's what he does. He's not selling himself or anything else, but giving advice about retirement. It's a very important thing. Sonny, thank you so much for agreeing to be with us here today. It means a bunch to us.
Thank you for having me.
You bet.
We were probably in our 30s.
We were just youngsters.
In our early 30s.
No, it couldn't have been that long ago.
When we really started thinking, that we need to set some money aside. Right. And I remember when we started your class that I think the first class you gave us what we needed to do to really look at everything financial, all our assets, banking account savings, but also, what assets we own, like a home, that kind of thing. And really for the first time, Mark sat down together and did an in-depth study of where we were financially. And, we wouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
Well, you overcame the number one reason people fail financially, and that's procrastination. You took action.
Yes.
So good for you.
Yeah, and that's the thing we'll get to in this show directly. So much of it has to do with trust, and there are so many financial advisors out there I know you can trust, but I can imagine you can trust. This man I know in his what he's done.
Yeah, I mean, we know his dad, and his mother's no longer with us, but we got to sit with them at a dinner one time and visit with them, and so we just kind of feel like we know the whole family.
Yeah. We all, and I'm going to get past this in a minute, but we all have to put our trust in so many things. A car dealership, not a car dealership in this instance, a mechanic. I've been through many mechanics, and I have been burnt, and that's understandable. But I finally found one, and I'm going to look this person up for sponsorship at some point. But I can trust it, and it's a person that will tell you, I say, I think this is what's the matter with it. I know you're going to say I need it. And he said, no, you don't need that, Mark. It's not that important. It's this. And in other words, he cost himself money by telling me the truth. And so you gravitate towards those people. And that's the thing is, if you're thinking about retirement, you can't afford to wade through some bad experiences. I mean, it's your life. We handed this guy what we had saved at that moment and say, do something with that, would you? And that takes, please don't mess us up. That takes a lot of trust. And a lot of people have been trust individuals.
Trust is lacking in a lot of areas this
Isn't
week.
it, Kay?
Hasn't it been an interesting week
It's
this
been
week?
something else.
I told Mark this morning, I'm just going to quote Nick Cannon from America's Got Talent. America has voted.
They voted. And, Kay, I am not going to say anything I need to. I want to about it, but I will say this one truth that came out concerning the new president-elect. And that is, he said something a while back that I thought was a massive exaggeration. The candidate had said some things that would have crippled the political future of any politician, but not being a politician, it didn't really matter. He just said and insulted a whole group of people and some infirmed people and all. And he went up in the polls after doing it, and here's what he said that I thought was an exaggeration that I now believe, wow, that's the truth. He said, I could take a gun and get out in the middle of New York City and shoot somebody and kill him, and I would still go up in the polls. I thought that was a joke. I kind of think that is close to a possibility now, simply because the people you have said have spoken.
They
and
voted.
People want to be
They voted.
shook up, and son of gun, we're going to be shook up.
And you know what? There was another shakeup
What was that, Kate?
recently. Who won the World Series?
Oh, my goodness, Kate. Talk about your segue into non-important political stuff. That is the Cubs. And, Sonny, were you for the Cubs? Did you care one way or the
I
other?
was for the Cubs.
Oh,
I mean,
that's-
anybody goes that 100 years without
No
winning.
kidding.
Something
Yeah.
good needed to happen.
Yeah.
at
Right.
Chicago.
Well, I wasn't going to feel bad about the other team either, because they've had a long drought too. But it's very cool that the Cubs
It
won.
is. And, I was thinking the Astros, we actually went to we won the pennant in 2005, I think it was. And, of course, we got clobbered by the
White
White
Sox.
Sox,
The-
the other
okay.
Chicago
White Sox,
team.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so we could go for a good while. I don't know if the Astros will be around 108 years worth. I don't know how long they've been there now. But anyway, the stuff could happen. There's many teams that need it. Cleveland could have sure used it, and I felt bad for them. But it was good for the Cubs. One thing that gets me, though, and it's another one of those exaggeration things. They had a parade in I almost said Cuba, Chicago, after the game. And it was said, it was broadcast that 5 million people went out on the streets of Chicago for the parade. And that's just not possible. It is impossible. There are 2.7 million, the population in Chicago is 2.7 million. When you think of the traffic, when you think of the amount of people in a town, 5 million, that's a bunch of people. If they had 1 million, I would say that is great. Before that, I think the biggest group of people ever, actually not before that, but the biggest group of people everywhere was in China, Shanghai, during some kind of big flower ceremony or something. I forget what it was.
That must have been a long
It was a long
parade
time.
to
It
get
was a
5
long
million
parade.
people on the curve.
Yeah, but the Cubs win, and that is nothing short of great. One thing short of great, though, is another news story I'd like to just get into now because it's so befuddling to me. And that is the fact that, Samsung has had some bad things happen to their business
Lately.
Their phones
Yeah,
burning up and,
exploding.
causing accidents.
There's-
Not only are phones exploding, their washing machines are exploding. It's like the hand of God has come down on Samsung and said, okay, phones, that wasn't enough. We're blowing up your washing machines. And
Well, it's just kind of funny that it's all,
yeah, all of a sudden.
explosion is
Yeah.
the word.
I think it's
So-
the Chinese. I make that up. I don't know what. And I was wondering, how do you blow up a top-loading washing machine? And then I read last night about it because, Kay, I wanted the facts on this thing. And according to what I read is the tumbler, the tub in the Samsung
The
washing
agitator
machine, agitator, and I
thing
think it's
in
on 37 models they have. It is very easy to get out of alignment, to get out of balance, and when it does, it goes ape crud. and it will create so much power and friction inside there that it will actually blow off the top of the lid. Have you ever, Dick, anybody, have y'all ever had your dryer go crazy?
Dryer or washer?
In this case, it's a dryer, which means nothing to do with what I would say. It's a washing machine.
Well, mine's walked across the floor before.
Right.
Does it not sound like the world is coming to an end? Like boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
And that's why I think it's very wise not to leave the house if you've got something in your washing machine. But that's what happened to them. And I think what they tried to do perhaps is build too good of a washing machine in that we want the balance to be perfect to the point where when it's not, I think a signal's supposed to go off in this case. But if it's not, it's going to blow up. So
you know, one time we bought a fancy bed that has the lift where you can lift it up, because Mark wanted to be able to see over me to see the TV.
You have
we
to,
watch TV
Sonny,
in bed.
you have to.
Anyway, and the only one that we liked happened to have the vibrator, you know, as part of it. We couldn't. I didn't want it, but I accidentally had my remote in the side table one night, and I laid something in there, and it was right on top of the remote. And it turned the vibrator on my side of the I didn't know what it was. I thought a helicopter was landing on the roof.
It sounded like one, Kay.
It did. I was running around. What's going on? What's going on? Of course, Mark calmly went over and turned it off.
Sometimes, you know, the
You
voice
had created it all.
The voice of calmness.
Yeah.
Speaking of sounds and all leads to another news story, folks, and this will probably be our last story before our first break, and it has to do with sound, and it's really weird. I was reading something else about on this entire planet, there are different pockets, different places where there are recorded hums, a noise that is irritating the daylights out of people. Maybe not for just a short while, but after a while.
Like a low frequency.
It's a very low frequency,
hum or
and
something?
it's kind of like a hum, but in some instances it's less. It's not exactly a hum; it's something else. And the story I read was out of Bristol, England, and this place, it's a coastal town. Close to wherever the mouth of the witch, that is England's, look, the island looks like a witch to me, and where the mouth comes to. Anyway, there's a place near the ocean, and they say it is just got a lot of people upset because this hum has been driving them crazy for decades. And people have been investigating it, and once again, they're all over the place, and it is a very low frequency. And what I read, Kay, about this noise is that 1/3 of the cases of these hums all over the world, they have determined what they are. And in some instances, it's actually wave action against the sand and against the rock in the ocean.
Okay.
In some instances, it is the method we use to contact our submarines and the methods they use to we use to locate other countries' submarines near us. It's a very low hum. It's screwing the heck out of whales. It's driving them nuts. But that's it. And
I like whales.
Kay loves whales. That's part of it. In others, you know, equipment in and around, but they say 1/3 of them, to this day, they cannot explain. There's another third that they say is physical. Some people have something in their head that is more attracted to low-frequency waves than others. And and that's one thing, by the way, Britain is using, they have used to get people, youngsters, out of an area that they shouldn't be in. You know,
Police bring in kind of these.
They bring in these speakers that you can't tell, and it's emitting a sound that is more susceptible to someone younger, and it's not a sense of
Can
what
we
is
buy
this?
one? Do you think?
Kay, I don't think it's legal. I don't think you should. In fact,
we might need one.
The Brits got into a world of hurt as a result of using that thing. Fascinating stuff. The most shocking story I'll get to right before we talk to Sonny about after this break, and it has to do with, I think, the most important story of the decade, and it's coffee. We'll talk about that as we come back from this break. Sonny Horn's with us, and we'll be talking to him
right back.
right after these words.
Break time, people. Restrooms are in the foyer. Back in a couple of minutes with more Hanging with the Hayters.
You're going to need me.
You're going to need us.
All of us.
You're going to need our help with your water, your air, your food.
You're going to need our determination, our compassion.
You're going to need the next generation of leaders to face the challenges the future will bring.
And we promise we'll be there when you need us.
Today, 4-H is growing the next generation of leaders.
You're going to need our help with your water, your air, your food.
You're going to need the next generation of leaders to face the challenges the future will bring. And we promise we'll be there when you need us. Today, 4-H is growing the next generation of leaders.
4-H is growing the next generation of leaders.
Hello, Montgomery County. I'm Rachel Baldwin with Special Olympics Texas, Area 6. Are you a fan of courage? Are you a fan of determination? Are you a fan of acceptance, grace, and skill? Then you're already a fan of Special Olympics. Make it official. Volunteer, coach, and or compete and be a fan of dignity and acceptance. The dedication of our Special Olympics Texas volunteers provides mainstreaming experiences for athletes with intellectual disabilities. You will touch the heart of another person, and it will move you in a meaningful way that lifts the spirit. Please visit the Heart of East Texas Area 6 webpage at www.sotx.org. Also, like us on Facebook to be a fan and be part of Special Olympics Texas.
And the winning ticket number is 47218. Now, back to Hanging with the Hayters on irlonestar.com. Yeah.
And we're glad that you're hanging with the Hayters this afternoon. You know, Mark mentioned coffee a minute ago, and we may have mentioned it in the past, but I don't know what Mark would do if he didn't have coffee. He's really, really, really picky about his coffee.
I'm kind of picky, Sonny.
And I don't like coffee, so that's fine. He
makes
can
it so
be as
much
picky
easier
as he
for me.
wants.
And particularly this time, you know, after the election, post-election, I'll probably be hitting the coffee pretty hard, but not the juice, Kay. I'm going to stay away from the bottle this
But
time.
he read something in the
Oh, I
paper
did,
the other
and
day
it's
that
so
he's been so upset.
disconcerting, and people just don't get in touch with the real things that are going on in this world. And what's happening is the coffee beans, ladies and gentlemen. There is something going on in this world that it's happening in both Arabia and in the Western Hemisphere, Colombia, and all the places that grow coffee, and it is called a leaf rust. What's happening to coffee right now I realize it's not happening, many people believe, the temperature of this planet is going up. For whatever reason, ladies and gentlemen, it is increasing. And what's happening with coffee is the fact that now where areas that were known before as rainforest and areas like that, areas becoming drier, and they're finding that the coffee plant is spending so much of its moisture, what it can find and all, not so much to produce the coffee bean, but to stay alive. And as a result of that, a lot of the areas, the plants are dying, and a lot of the coffee is not generated, and when they're weak, they get this leaf rust. So it is dying all over the place. Well, what is the hope in this? Not a great deal. But they say and this doesn't mean a lot to a lot of people, I guess, but they say by 2050, which Kay and I will be gone, they will have half, if things hold true, they will have only half of the plants they have now.
So drink your coffee now, folks.
Well, here's the problem, and it is that right now A&M is doing some research on the beans. They've got some original beans. The coffee originated in Ethiopia. I don't know how many people knew that, but
there is the Ethiopian coffee that you see.
You've got
labeled that
goat
way.
herder, Kay, in 800 A.D. found this area where his goats were eating these bushes with beans on it, and these goats quit going to sleep. They would stay awake, and so he said, "Wow, what's this plant?" And I'm not making this up. But they took these
he
beans.
wrote it down, I guess.
wrote it down, and he sent some to Yemen, and it became a big market in Yemen. And in what happened is some people traded it and sent to the Americas,
the New World,
yeah. And it became
and then
real big.
Valdez wanted some.
What that means is all of the coffee today has its genes, not in Levi's or Blue, but genes from these plants in Ethiopia. There have been very few
common ancestors.
Varieties. Like only, I've got it written down somewhere, the number of varieties of coffee. It's somewhere in here, 36, I believe, varieties. 36 varieties of coffee beans. Now, you may say, wow, that's enough. Folks, there are 2,000 varieties of watermelons. 2,000! Those genes, if you got one variety dying, big deal,
I bet there's that many varieties of tea as well.
So what happens is whenever this leaf rust takes over, to get a variety that is resistance is going to take a long time, and it's going to be very difficult. In other words, you're going to have to use genetics now, something a lot of people say don't do, but with coffee, I say you should just open all doors and do whatever you can. In other words, it's going to take years to come up with something that is resistant to the leaf rust and something that is going to actually withstand more dryness. We have so many.
Maybe they'll come up with one that'll grow in Texas, and we can just get
Oh man, in my backyard.
Wouldn't that be cool?
So there are so many nonprofits that you can donate to now all over the world, but I think coffee needs to have some people throwing in some
Maybe
money
they can
to
get a
Texas A&M.
GoFundMe page.
GoFundMe. Speaking of funds, ladies and gentlemen, I have Sonny Horn here, financial, I want to say expert.
Is guru a good word?
President of Leaders Financial Group. He's headquartered down there in the Woodlands off, what is that, Oak Ridge Drive?
Yes.
Oak Ridge Drive Road. I'll put this information on Facebook and YouTube and SoundCloud and all. It's been a financial advising people for over 30 years, my understanding is. He's also an adjunct professor at Sam Houston State University for 20 years. And where we found him, he works with most major school districts in the area, in the North Houston area. He's been doing that for a long time. And also he's managing well over 125 million assets. That is Sonny Horn here. And as such, he knows a lot about finances. And Sonny, I wanted to mention this before we get into any retirement thoughts. I'm looking at this election again, and I'm seeing some things that have been said. There is really no platform the president-elect has, but he's made some statements about regulations. He's going to cut them out 70%, realizing that he is going to be the president, not the king of the country. It takes a Congress to do some things here. But he's going to do, he says, I'm going to do this, and, with respect to tariffs and all, we're going to have new treaties done with Mexico and China and everywhere else. Less regulations on finances and all. Sonny, based on what you've heard and all, what possible effect, what do you see happening with the economy, or guesses you have with respect to what might happen on the short term and the long term with what we're getting ready to experience?
Well, at fear of not being invited back.
No, Sonny, you're here.
Let me offer maybe a contrarian viewpoint.
Right.
Here,
all right.
okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
I see it a little bit differently, Mark, in terms of the effect on the economy and for business in general. So let's look for a silver lining here, since we've got this president-elect. Number one, I think that could be positive for the country and business, which is going to drive the economy, is taxes. When business looks favorably at tax situations, you make a product or service, people find value in it, and so you have costs that govern your profitability there. Not to get too deep in the weeds here.
Oh, yeah.
But the taxes can be burdensome, so I'll go back to part of Mr. Trump's platform to where he said, well, if the businesses see an oppressive tax strategy, they leave. When they leave, they take the jobs. When the jobs go, it takes the income that people can then give part back to the government in the way of taxes.
Right.
So if we don't have the jobs, and statistics bear this out, that over half the folks are not paying tax for whatever reason, don't have a job, their income's not sufficient, they are using tax loopholes. But I think long term it can be a very positive thing for the economy in terms of business. And then we're going to be talking about the stock market and equity type investments and how that might be affected. So let me just say this, and I'll defer back to you, Mark, on my point about the country was created. It's a free enterprise capitalistic society. Whether you love it, hate it, middle of the road, it is what it is. And so if you, in my view, invent or come up with a better product or service that people perceive to have value, you and I are going to buy it. I'll give you a great example. These Courier coffee makers. Maybe you've had. I was
Here.
kind of the last guy,
Yeah.
and we're talking about
We've got
coffee.
it.
Well, I mean, you look at that initially, and so we get up and make a pot of coffee, and half of it sit there, and it was stale, it wasn't fresh. You're particular about your coffee, so now everybody has an instant cup of coffee. Does it cost more? Yes, but the convenience thing overrode the cost. People were attracted to it, so the companies that make that are profitable, and people that invest money for you and I are going to gravitate to those companies. That's an example of free enterprise and capitalism. So as long as that's left intact, regardless of whether Democrats or Republicans are in office, in my view, the company will it'll flourish. It's going to have some hiccups, but long answer to a short question.
No, that's encouraging. It is all good, and I appreciate that. And I would make this one statement, and that is, given money, the corporations do have money. You know, they get their tax monies. They can make things that people will buy if the people have money. And I don't know where they're going to get it. Where is the demand? My question is, where's the demand going to come when the people down here are saying, well, the rich people have the money, they're getting taxed, they're making things that I cannot afford. Unless there's something that is not profitable, a service or something that actually, I don't know, would create a situation where they could purchase things. I don't know. It's kind of like Henry Ford when he, at a time when the price of labor was, down to, $1 a day or whatever, he offered $5 a day, and he said, my reason is because if the people cannot afford to buy what I'm building, why build it? Of course, that didn't stand very long. He ran into trouble. But right now, my sense is, and this is where I see the situation, is in the provide for the general welfare. That the sense is, if you help the common man, you're wasting your money on him. But if you help a corporation, wow, they're going to create jobs for this common man down there. And in the past, the history does not show that to be the case. And that's my look at it, just looking at history and all. I do hope, I like to be more
Positive.
Optimistic.
Yes, optimistic than I am now, and I may certainly get there. One thing I am optimistic in is whatever has happened in the past to the economy has, whatever you've done for us has helped us in a positive way. I mean, when the economy was going down the flusher, so you said, well, that's not good. But your money is okay where it is, and you're in good shape.
Right.
Sonny, what right now, let's just, oh my goodness, Sonny, when we get back, this is what I want to address right now, about talking to people about what they need to be thinking about and going. But Dick, I am so sorry. We need to take a break right now at this moment.
Break time, people. Restrooms are in the foyer. Back in a couple of minutes with more Hanging with the Hayters.
Our community's animal shelters cannot absorb accidental litters of kittens and puppies. Approximately 80% of the animals entering our shelters will not make it out alive. Please help be a part of the solution. Please spay and neuter your pets. Many low-cost options are available. Visit texaslittercontrol.org to learn more. That's texaslittercontrol.org. And remember, real Texans don't litter. Please spay and neuter your pets.
You're listening to Lone Star Community Radio with Hanging with the Hayters. We're going to do a quick weather and traffic break and get back to the show. Looking at weather in the Montgomery County area, 70 degrees outside with a slight overcast. Humidity is around 73%. This afternoon's forecast is mostly cloudy with a high of 75 and a low of 55. Good news is we don't expect rain all the way through Veterans Day and the Veterans Day weekend till Sunday. Traffic conditions in the Montgomery County area, looking at I-45 all the way from the Woodlands through Willis. I see one accident being reported northbound on I-45 right after Research Forest Drive, but do not see any backups. But there is an accident being reported right there at I-45 and Research Forest Drive northbound on I-45. Looking east to west at 1488, 242, 105, and the Loop 336, I don't see any accidents or instances being reported. You are listening to Lone Star Community Radio. We're going to get back to Hanging with the Hayters, and to remind you, they have a Facebook. Check it out, like them, and see what's going on with them. We're going to be right back to them with some PSAs first.
At Jazzy Junk, volunteers reclaim, restore, and recycle. Jazzy Junk is a non-profit resale storefront where you will discover wonderful, unique finds at very affordable prices on furniture, antiques, books, art, home decor, and more. When you shop Jazzy Junk, you support New Danville, a community for adults with developmental disabilities. We receive new donations daily, so plan a visit to Jazzy Junk today to find that perfect item or gift. Our motto is here today, gone today. So remember to hurry in and shop often for the best selection. Jazzy Junk is located in the outlets at Conroe on League Line Road and I-45 North. Call 936-441-4500 or visit our website, jazzyjunk.org. That's JUNQUE for more information and store hours.
Cole Porter's inspired classic Anything Goes is approaching fast with CYT Houston. The age-old tale of boy meets girl with all the hilarious complications that come with it is hitting the stage from November 10th through November 12th at the Crichton Theater in downtown Conroe. To purchase Passage online, just visit cythouston.org, or you can purchase tickets at the box office. Don't miss the tapping, the dancing, and the singing with Anything Goes by CYT Houston this November at the Crichton Theater. Again, visit them online at cythouston.org for more information.
You're listening to Hanging with the Hayters with Mark and Kay on irlonestar.com. Punk.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. You're Hanging with Hayters. My darling wife Kay's over there, and Sonny Horn, my good bud, is sitting across the table from us. Sonny, right now, let us devote our time to what you do, and with respect to providing a service, which is get people thinking about the future, and you've got to get through the procrastination. How do you reach people? What do you have to say when you do?
Well, let's go back to what I do. I try to teach people not to be dead broke in retirement. And so
Thank you.
Fear is a great motivator for a lot of folks. I think it's like most other things, Mark, it's education. And then it depends on where we are in terms of ready to receive the information. You know, when I was a younger man and grew up in Beaumont, and if you listen to me, you'll realize that that's where this accent's from.
I was wondering.
But Dad worked at a refinery there. But I don't know, early on, I was just maybe a little bit fascinated as to why some people retired or had money, and other people struggled throughout their entire life. And so I educated myself. And like we do oftentimes when we have interest in a certain subject matter. And so some folks helped me along the way. But I think to those folks that are, out there listening, you have to avail yourself to certain financial principles. They're not going to change. Either you can embrace them or you can reject them, but they're going to be there. Mm-hmm. And so one of the things that I always point out to my classes, and it is educational, is that the first problem is we're told, and I believe this because I've substantiated it, most of us will work over 90,000 hours in our lifetime and yet spend less than 10 hours preparing for retirement, which is the grand vacation. We spend more time than that going on a trip somewhere. Yeah. So then we wonder, why didn't that work out? And so you have to have a written plan. You got to have some goals. You got to write it down. And I know you don't want to hear that, a lot of us, but it's just one of those things that isn't going to change. One of the things I thought I would share with you today, and some of you may be familiar with this, but I find that many are not. Another foundational principle is called the Rule of 72. I've fascinated, I still am, it has to do with compound interest. Albert Einstein called this the eighth wonder of the world. And I've been doing this for a while, as you alluded to, and it still fascinates me. So the Rule of 72 works like this. 72 is a constant. So whatever interest rate we can earn on our money, which we're accumulating for down the road because we're going to need it, okay, take that interest rate and divide it into the number 72, and it will give you the number of years that it takes your money to double in value. Let me say it one more time. Interest rate into the number 72 will give us the number of years it takes your money to double in value. Let's take a few examples. 6%. I mean, could we possibly get 6%? We'll talk about that if we have time, or maybe even more. 6 will go into 72. Last time I checked was 12 times. 1,000 will turn to 2,012 years. So if that principle is true, then 10,000 would also turn to 20,012 years. 100,000 would turn to 200,012 years. The principle is the same. The challenge is getting the ball rolling, getting enough money to where when it does double, it makes a difference. And then lastly, 8% into 72 goes 9 years. 10% goes 7 times. 12 will go 6 times. You can do the math. If you have the money in the bank, and this is not a slap on the bank, they're paying me 1% in my dreams. 1 will go into 72 years. Am I going to be around in 72 years for money to double? Ain't going to work.
Yeah.
Right.
Got to find something else.
Right.
So, folks, these are just foundational principles that you've got to embrace. You got to get your money working for you rather than somebody else. And so, question was, how do you get people to listen? I mean, how do you get them to take action? It's tough, but the sooner you start, the better off you'll be. Hope you can take that away and have it be useful.
Right. And that's the thing. Kay and I had been saving up to then. We had, I think, $75,000 or $50,000. This were when we were teaching.
Honestly don't remember.
It was a fixed annuity, and Sonny took it. And I didn't know about this 72 thing, but our interest was not, over the course of many years, very good. And son of a gun, it
started growing.
Did stuff. Sonny, could you tell us real quickly, if you don't mind, the difference between an annuity and a 401k or
IRA?
IRA, whatever they.
Okay. Well, an annuity typically is with an insurance company. When you hear the word annuity, and by the way, I mean, everybody's situation is different, and no one investment is going to have all the whistles and bells that we need on it, but an annuity is typically with an insurance company, and we have some guarantees associated with an annuity. For example, a big difference is if we put $100,000 in an annuity, or whatever it is, at death, the beneficiary can never get back less than they started with. So let's say it's a variable annuity, okay, and it's in the market. Variable would mean that it's varying, okay, in terms of the rate of return. So if we put in $100,000, the market grows it to 80. It's a bad joke.
Right.
Yeah.
And the annuitant dies, then the beneficiary gets back. Well, what did I start with? I started with 100. That's what you get back. If you put $100,000 in a mutual fund or a stock or a bond, something like that, and the market grows it to 80, and the owner dies, then there is no what did you start with. Okay, so if it grew to 80, that's what you get. So that's one big difference. Another thing can be guarantees associated in terms of a living benefit. There are vehicles out there now that will offer 5-6% annualized return in terms of growing your money for a future date to turn on a predictable, reliable, sustainable income stream. And hey, when I get 65 or 70 years of age, I need reliable, sustainable, predictable income. So they're not right for everyone. So those are some key differences in annuities. There's usually a guarantee associated with them, and it's usually counteracts negative performance, as in markets. Having said that, I just want to say one other thing here, Mark, if I may. Back to the rule of 72, I think generally people that are not in tune with this type of thing, and none of us can be good at everything. I mean, there's a lot in Mark's head, as you know, if you followed him. Okay. And it's he's seeing the world from a different set, which is what I love about talking to Mark. But people that are not around the investment world, they don't know that can you get 8, 9, 10%, 12% a year. Folks, I'm looking at funds that are available for the investment public and that have done 10% plus rates of returns for 50 years. 50 years. Yeah. I mean, so would that tell you and I that those folks may know how to manage money, and maybe if we give them our money, perhaps it's not going to poison it?
Yeah.
So,
Kay and I have one of those too for a number of years. I still can't believe it. I don't understand. In fact, Sonny, I don't understand half what you just said. And that's the
That's
thing.
okay, Mark.
No, that's the thing about the whole process is that when I sat down with, when you sit down with, I'm sure most financial advisors, specialists, or whatever, but particularly with Sonny, he sits down and it's not, okay, I'm going to make you money. It's what do you want? What is your goal? What's your outlook? And you spend a great deal of time, and we go back periodically, almost yearly. And he says, well, here's what's happening, and it's an ongoing thing. And along those,
yeah, well, Mark, you hit on the magic formula there. I mean, a lot of advisors do make recommendations when they really don't know anything about you.
Right.
And so you have to tell them, look, this is when Kay and I'd like to retire. This is how much money we think we'd like to spend each month. These are our predictable income sources. And we got to factor in a little inflation there. And in my office, we have a screen, as you know, and I'm visual myself, so I need to see a picture. And so you can do this, folks, with whoever you might work with. You've got to have a plan, and it's got to be written, and you need to be accountable to the plan. And whoever you're working with, they need to be accountable to you. And if you don't have that, this is America. You have choices. Find somebody else.
Right.
So, and once your plan is in place, it's not in stone. You have to make adjustments on it from time to time. And certainly we've been doing this for a while. And if you have a written plan, it seems like magic. It typically works out. But if you don't write it down and it's in your head and you go to put it on paper and you can't quite articulate it, guess what? It's fuzzy, and your retirement plan's probably going to be fuzzy when you get there because you couldn't write it down.
Right.
Yeah.
It was,
What should somebody, I mean, we've got, nieces, nephews in their 30s and whatever. They've got kids and they got a tight budget, but if you just don't know anybody, how do you go find somebody to help you plan your retirement?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, that's folks in our industry are always, how do we meet people to try and help them, and then, like you say, on the other side of the coin, they're trying to figure out who do they talk to. Again, I'm going to go back to the education thing. There are a lot of good books out there. I happen to be. Many of you probably, some of you may subscribe to the Dave Ramsey show, or he's a financial guru, and I happen to agree with almost everything that he says. I happen to agree with it before he came along, but I mean, there's books. Money Master the Game, Tony Robbins. He's a motivational speaker, but given his notoriety as a motivational speaker, he's able to talk to Charles Schwab and Sir John Templeton, who created Templeton Mutual Funds, and hedge fund managers and people that do this. What do people that have financial success do? Are there commonalities? It's going to take some effort, folks. You got to educate yourself, and then I would encourage you, as you seek people out to give you this advice, you need to have a plan. It's got to be, I know I'm being redundant, but you got to have a plan. Once the plan is in place and you say, this is when I want to retire, this is how much I want to retire on, this is how much I have, this is what we think we can save, here's a reasonable return, what does it look like? Then we can go and utilize different solutions or investments to get you from point A to point B. But we got to figure out what your plan is. In terms of finding people to help you with that, just be aware. Look around. Find people that talk to friends. Who's helping them?
Right.
Who's answering their questions?
That's a good
rather than
way
just
to
being
do it.
product oriented and somebody's trying to sell you something all the time.
One thing that helped us a great deal was we found out through Conroe ISD, and they mentioned that Sonny Horn. was going to have this, not seminar, but a course. And my thought was, wow, the high school said this. And the high school's not going to come up and say something like that without, doing their homework and realizing what they've got. That brought some trust to us. I think we met our original person through the district. Had a different plan and all, fixed annuity and all. Anyway, we went to Sonny. And wherever you can hear stuff like, if you can trust the person who's around you who knows or who's been there. And Sonny, I got to tell you, I would think now you are, you have a big calling from people needing help who have kids getting ready to go to college, because that is absolutely, for me, I would have never been able to go had this situation that we've got now been in effect. Is that pretty much the case now? Do you have very many plans?
Oh, yeah. We've got a lot of folks that, and there are educational plans out there. I have them for my own grandchildren. They're called 529 educational plans, and there are different companies that offer those. And long story short, you put in money after tax. So you don't take a pre-tax deduction, but the money grows tax deferred. We utilize some of these investments that I alluded to that can make 10+% a year, because, hey, we've just got a grandchild today and they're not going to need the money for 18 years. How many doubling periods can I double the money? I'm sending in money monthly, which is another financial principle. But once we reach that college education time, then books and tuition, computers, room and board, the money comes out tax-free. And so we have to utilize plans like that. Folks, you got to take advantage of the tax codes, the tax laws, get them to work for you, whether it's saving money through your educational plans, if you're in a district or through your employer. But college education certainly is, you've got to, in terms of, and people can help you with this in terms of planning. You figure out what the cost is today. You have to factor in some inflation. You just back into the numbers. It's math. And so once you get the numbers, then you can say, well, this is how much you should be saving at this rate of return. And when my grandchild or my son or daughter gets to this age, they will have at least part of their education funded. If they weren't lucky enough to get a scholarship, it's not like it snuck up on us, but you got to plan, and you got to write it down.
Right.
In my background with respect to the area we grew up in and how much money we had going, I've mentioned it more than once. Our mom and dad had 7 kids, and just getting us through school was tough. He worked at a refinery. Sonny's dad did also, and as such, he had he lived for overtime. So he could just, and it wasn't so much overtime so I could get ahead. It's overtime so I could get this debt taken care of. And I mentioned before, not to you, Sonny, but my dad, any time he was able to draw on his retirement, he took it. And to where when he died, he literally had no retirement left. He had Social Security and all. And Kay's mom and dad, they had 3 kids. 2 had disabilities. One blind, one had still has brittle bone
disease.
Anyway, and they had hospital bills out the wazoo and all, and yet this man took money in that they still put money in his savings. It wasn't much, but it was a different mindset, I think, than
and my mom went to work when Tracy started college, my younger brother. Yeah. And as soon as she went to work, she started chunking money in for 403B for herself. Right. So they did it kind of late, but they did it.
Yeah.
I just want to add one thing there. It's amazing in terms of saving money that I've found. I don't know why this is. It's just one of those things that you're not going to change. In terms of saving money, some of you, you just need to get started. And here's the phenomena that I've stumbled across, and it's just worth discussing here. It's easier for people to go from saving $50 a month to $100 a month than it is to go from saving 0 to 50. I don't know why that is, but it's just one of those things, Mark. And so you got to get the ball rolling. So there's a peace of mind that goes with that. So if you can only save $25 or $50, get into the habit of saving money. And then as you grow and your income becomes more flexible, just take my word for it, folks, it's easier to save more money.
Yeah. And here's the thing, what, as little brain powers I have when it comes to economics. Even though I taught it once, Sonny, can you believe this? I can't either. But when you're looking at someone, and I was starting with a very important point here until I mentioned that other thing, but it was important. What? When you're starting saving money, like right now, my thought is, oh my gosh, interest rates, CDs, impossible. You know what, 0.5% or whatever. And what Sonny has just mentioned is there are, if you know what you're doing, which Mark doesn't, but if you have someone you can work with who gives you the rule of 72, and you realize it's available out there at beyond what we've got now. I don't know how it works. I don't know how it's possible, but I do know to do anything like that that's going to be worthwhile, you need help. And it's more than going to a bank, can I have a savings account or something? It's so much more than that. And it's one of those things where you find a trustworthy individual. And
well, none of us can be good at everything.
Well, that's right. Sonny, I appreciate that.
So you just have to find your expertise and stick to that, and find somebody that can help you.
Some more than others, though.
Yeah, I'm still looking for the person. Fortunately, by the way, I've got Kay here, and when we go to meetings, Sonny wisely directs his attention to Kay and says, here's the situation. By the way, I will say this, too. Sonny, we get so much stuff mailed to us from where our money is and all, and goodness.
But we are going paperless.
We're going paperless. We're
yeah.
trying to. Now, oh my gosh. And it's one of those things where if I had to read it, it'd probably scare me to death. I don't know what the words really mean and all, but my thing is, I'm not worried. I mean, after so many years we've been with this gentleman, I don't worry about stuff like that. I know Dick's dad's a financial advisor, too, Rick Schishler and all. There are, I know, many people out there, and we still get, emails and stuff from people. But right now I am, like I say, where we are through the wisdom of going to leaders group, financial group, and it has sure helped us a bunch. And by the way, I can say that he is not a sponsor, by the way. We're on right now, and I love to be able to plug something that is so helpful. And I even like to plug restaurants, by the way, but and so I can when they're not sponsoring me. So we'll be looking at that too. But just announcing that the service is there, and we know of one person, and like I say, I'll put the name, the address, and all phone number on Facebook, on our page and all, and you'll be able to locate if you're interested. By the way, is there any kind of course coming up in the near future that you're going to be involved in? Or?
We don't have the calendar set right now for 2017. We just complete, and you alluded to the school district, and so we've done every school district virtually north of Houston. But the last class we did was for Klein ISD and in Conroe. But one will be coming up in the spring, and we usually do one in the spring for about 3 different districts and one in the fall, and then a public class as well.
Sonny, we're going to get in touch with you at some point. In fact, we're going to have him to be I'll talk about this later, our financial guru periodically on the show. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. Hang with Hayter. Sonny Horn, thank you for being with us today. Ladies and gentlemen, next week we're going to have the bee people. Sherry and James are going to be with us talking about the bees later.
Thanks for checking out this production of Lone Star Community Radio, Montgomery County's community radio station. For more information on this show and other shows on Lone Star Community Radio, check us out online at irlonestar.com. If you're interested in sponsoring a program on Lone Star Community Radio and reaching the local audience of Montgomery County on FM, Internet, TV, media, please call 936-647-5747 or contact us online at irlonestar.com. This recording is a Lone Star Community Radio production produced by the show host and Dick Schishler of Lone Star Community Radio. Interested in volunteering as a music DJ or starting your own talk show? Contact Dick Schishler at dick@irlonestar.com or by phone at 936-647-5747.